You've highlighted this earlier where you said that colonial masters made Africans lose their self-confidence. What do you think as people, individuals can do to kind of understand where this lack of self-confidence comes from and how they can regain that? Are there any other words of wisdom to help our listeners?
I think what individuals we can do is to educate ourselves. History is very important to every human being. But Africans, we haven't taken time to learn our own history, the history of the world. When Eric Atable said, he who controls the past controls the future. And he who controls the future controls the present. It's very important that we learn history so that we'll be able to inform ourselves. That is the only way we can regain our self-confidence. And as individuals, when we know, when we have the information, then we can do activism. I'll set you one example. At the moment in Ghana, there is a major public outcry against illegal mining. There are small-scale miners who have, we call them galamsey, who have destroyed almost every water body in the country. And environmentally, we have a disaster. And people are now agitating against this. I'm seeing on the social media, everybody is saying that the current government has been in power for 8 years. They have only 4 more months to go because we are having elections in December. So I'm saying, why are they now rising up and jumping about the galamsey now? What about the 8 years? What happened? Was it just for lack of information? Did people not know what was going on? Have they just known how much galamsey has destroyed our country? All the rivers in the country now have turned brown. I did an article last week. I was comparing Ghana and Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, too, we have small-scale miners. But the government took an enlightened policy by first trying to train these small-scale miners, giving them funding and equipment, and then coming out with a law and said, you cannot mine in the bed of rivers or near rivers. So in Zimbabwe, their rivers, even though they are illegal miners, their rivers are clean, pristine. But in Ghana, every river there is now brown. Individually, I think we should try to get information, and when we should act on them. We shouldn't wait until 4 months when this president is going out.
How could we do something practical on the ground? When we have information such as this, what is a smart, clever way for us to act on it, for an individual person, a listener, to act on this and create some sort of movement or community?
There are people like you who have your podcast and bloggers and TV guys and radio guys. They will go underground and then use the social media as a way of whipping up public support. So that is what they have done in Ghana at the moment. They will go down with their cameras, shoot images, come and put on the social media or on their TV channels and talk about it on radio. So to get a groundswell of public opinion against that kind of evil. So I think through that, and then also uniting our fronts, like us in the media, we can close ranks and support. If I have the story, then the other media house will pick it up, and then it will be rolling and rolling. And then you get public support from the ordinary people in the street who will also join in. And public opinion will be increasing, and then we can get some change.
It's really reclaiming your identity through knowledge and education, and then actively trying to make a difference depending on what you do, amplifying the voices of other individuals in Africa. But I wanted to ask, the things you produce, the Third Eye or New Africa archives, are they accessible online?
Yes, for New African, all the things we did, I think it's online. I have the archive myself, so from time to time, I go back to look at it. The Third Eye, we are trying to make it look good. You can also access it online.
I'm thinking about the new generation and social media and knowledge in sort of bite size. And I think sometimes people want to read things or take out time, but they don't always get the chance. Yeah, exactly. So if there's something online that they can browse, even if it's on their commute to work or university or whatever it may be, because we can also obviously link it as part of this podcast so more people can be aware of your work and your resistance.
Yes. Unfortunately for the third eye, it's very heavy reading. We deliberately made this because we want people to either lie in bed and read it or lie in their couch, read it, and think about it. And I remember when we started, I did an editorial and said, the third eye is not for the faint-hearted. You need to have, say, weekend. I'm going to sit down and read. But I see that young ones want, like you said, bite-sized kind of things. I don't know how we can get them.
Maybe somebody who has the time to invest and also has the creativity, they can take some of the knowledge from reading the third eye and kind of create accessible knowledge for other people.
Our articles are very detailed. Know how you could do that. And I never forgot here, Hamid, you mentioning the Africa Fact book, but we haven't talked about that. The Africa is also one of my babies, which I edited. And it is 1120 pages, 1,120 pages. No, almost 1,200 pages. And it's published by our organization called the Institute of African Knowledge, based in Harare. We wanted to come out with counter information to abuse, or not abuse, as a counter information to what the Western media, Western academia, Western historians have reported about Africa over time. So it is an encyclopedia that looks at Africa in its broad expanse. History.
Yeah, because I saw it. It starts from Algeria all the way.
Yeah. So it has four parts. Section A deals with African history. Section B deals with contemporary Africa and facts about Africa. Then we have C that deals with African inventions, because there are people who say that Black people can invent. So we look at Black inventions in USA, Europe, and Africa. And then we have a very good section on the African diaspora, global Africa, from USA all the way to Japan and the Solomon Islands and those Pacific Islands.
It must have taken a long time to create this.
It took us about 2 years. And I nearly died out of that project because it was too much. The writers that we wanted to help did not come up. So it became a major thing for me. And personally, I don't want to do shoddy work. So I put myself into it, and it nearly killed me. Yes, nearly. Yeah.
But thank God you're still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here. Yeah, so that book is still there for Africa.
Yes, that book is a great source of knowledge, and we are going to link it in the description below with our podcast. So the Africa Fact books, as well as the Third Eye. Is the Third Eye available to purchase online as well? So we can link it in the description.
We're not actually selling online. I have to look into it, but we have a website.
Okay. So if you provide the website, I'll add it to the description.
Yeah, we have to start selling online. Please.
Yeah. Definitely, it should be something, because through the power of the internet, we can go global. And the whole purpose of this podcast is to try to find out how we can empower Africans globally and increase the global respect for Black and African people everywhere. So I feel like things like this, we should be taking the opportunity of the internet and using that to really expand our reach. And based on everything you've told me today, Baffour, I feel like if I was to ask you what can we do to empower Africans globally, you can tell me if this is right or not. But I suspect you will say what we need to do is take control of our own stories in order to increase our self-confidence, because you've been talking about self-confidence a lot. So is that what you would say, or would you say something else with regards to how do we empower Africans?
I would say just that, and also how to empower Africans. Go into history. Let's study history. Very critical. I keep saying history is the only subject in the Bible that God said, study it. History. When they crossed the Red Sea, the Jewish people crossed the Red Sea, and when they went into the desert, God gave them manna to eat. And he told Moses, he said, take a jar of manna and put it in the Ark of the Covenant, so that in future, when your children ask you what happened, then you can show them. That is history. When they crossed the Jordan, at the time Moses had died, Joshua has taken command. When they crossed the Jordan, God parted the Jordan again, and he told Joshua, let 12 men go into the river, bring out 12 stones, set it up as a monument where you are going to stay tonight. Let it be a memorial so that when your children in future ask you, you can point to that. That is history. Very cardinal. History is very important, but in Africa, the white man knows that history empowers you. So they just diverted us. Today, I sit here and I can tell my ancestry comes from ancient Egypt. And the ancient Egyptians were mighty empire builders. It gives me confidence to also do more so that I can beat my ancestors. But people don't know. We've been allowed, European historians, to tell us that Black people have done nothing to help the world here. We have no part in world civilization. But we know that our ancestors built ancient Egypt from where we gave birth to even Israel, where now Netanyahu is doing all these things here. Without ancient Egypt, there will be no Israel. Remember, I don't know whether you know your Bible story.
I don't know the Bible stories like that.
There were only 70 of them who arrived. After 430 years, there were now about 5 million going out. They married into the native population that was Black. So the Israelites left Egypt, half African. They have half African blood in them and half Jewish blood because they came with only 70. How did they increase to 5 million in 530 years? They married our women and men. These were Black at the time. Ancient Egypt was purely a Black empire. So they went away half African. Netanyahu's ancestors were half African, half Jewish.
Well, I feel like Netanyahu is just strictly white, based on what I know of him. Isn't he from Poland?
To say he's got Polish heritage.
He's basically European.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that on the whole, went with African blood in them. So they will pass on. Yeah, Egypt, if you remember the conquest of ancient Egypt, all these nations came around. But at the time when the Europeans came, the Jews had already left.
Okay.
Yeah. When the Jews were in Egypt, no nation attacked it. All the attacks that came on ancient Egypt was when the Jews had left.
Look into this ancient Egypt stuff and just know just how ancient it was, because obviously now Egypt is filled with Arabs, people that look Arab at least, or people that look like they're Arabs. And obviously this isn't the first time I've heard that, the ancient version of Egypt had more black-skinned, dark-skinned individuals like ourselves. So it's going to be interesting to see, for me to look into it myself and just try to understand, because there's been more. This has been said many times and I just haven't paid attention. I guess mainly because to me, it hasn't really mattered as much, because I felt like even just the stuff that we did in West Africa, just the empires, that the Songhai Empire, the Hausa kingdoms, all the kingdoms that were built, what's it called? Ouagadougou, all these different empires, and Ghana itself were big enough, were impressive enough, but it's something I definitely need to look into. But yeah, awesome.
Do something on ancient Egypt. Study it. And it will blow your eyes. There's a book done by Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization or something. He did it for me.
Chancellor Williams, you said?
Yeah. The Destruction of Black Civilization, I think.
Okay.
Get a copy.
All right. I would definitely look into that.
Yes. It opened my eyes. Very good book.
All right. I think that is it. I think we're done for today's conversation. I wanted to say thank you so much for your time, Baffour. It was really eye-opening. I learned a lot, enlightening. Learned about Zimbabwe, learned about Charles Taylor and Liberia and a bunch of Ghana and different countries. And this is what this podcast is here for. So I want to say thank you for your time. Truly appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. Sumera, anything you want to say to Baffour?
There's a lot of knowledge here, and I just want the listeners to be able to access this knowledge. We don't have to start again. We just have to access the knowledge, and there's a lot out there. So thank you again for your time. It's been a privilege to be able to be here and learn more from you.
Thank you too for bringing me on. It's been a good evening for me to look back where I started and the things that I did. Sometimes you think you're the only one out, but seeing you young people taking up the baton is good for us. Let's hope for our people.
Amazing.
Thank you.